If you don't have school or if you don't have work today like me, these are the 5 health tips that you can do to make sure that your immune system is still well functioning even if you are not in your usual routine. So the first one is to keep moving and don't stop living. What do I mean by this? You can start by making sure that you don't just lie down in your bed or just keep slouching in the couch. You can keep moving. You can do many things in your home, or you can do some exercise. Like now, I'm in my stationary bike and I'm doing this while doing this live episode with you. And just because we are at home, we will stop everything else. You can always do something productive because when you keep moving, especially when you incorporate exercise, you can increase your tolerance to stress. So, even if we are not asking for it, but say, for example, if you get the flu or whatever, you can ensure that you can survive it well. So, just make sure that you do some exercises, do some mobility, even just going up and down the stairs, or watching some movies, or watching some YouTube videos about home exercises that doesn't need any equipment or doesn't need so much space. Everything you need, it's mostly in YouTube. You just have to know what to look for. So number 2 tip is to experience outdoor while indoors, because exposing ourselves outdoors, especially in nature, can already improve our health. It can regulate our sleep, mood, and boost our immune system. But how can we do that? How can we experience outdoor while indoors? So you can just open your windows, you can put some plants, or you can have some indirect sun exposure. Like, say, for example, if you are living in a building where you cannot afford to have a garden, but of course, if you have a garden, you are very, very lucky to have that direct sun exposure. You can even do some grounding. You walk barefoot in the ground. That can give you some passive magnesium and some passive electrolytes that's coming from the ground for your absorption. And of course, it is now known to have an impact when it comes to our overall health. So there's always a way to experience outdoor while indoors in order for you to improve your immune system. Number 3 is to not eat too much, because when you are at home, and most people, whenever they are not in their routine, they feel bored. And if you are bored, try to do something else instead. You can do a hobby, you can always do that project you've been procrastinating on, and make sure that when you eat, it appropriates your activity. Because I know when you are not in school or you are not at work, you already lose that traveling burden, that physical task to do whatever you're doing at work. So when you are at home, you are expected to work less, or if ever you have a project really that you really need to do some physical tasks, then you can also increase your food intake. But if you do, we go to our tip number 4, which is eating right. Because if you decide to eat, you have to eat right. You don't need to eat too much, but you also don't need to eat less. You just have to eat right. So what do we mean by eating right? It's usually foods that doesn't spike insulin. So avoid the empty carbohydrates, meaning the food that are high in calories when it comes to carbohydrates, but they have very little amount of vitamins, minerals, and essential nutrients, like bread, most root crops. We also have even pasta and rice, corn, most grains. So all wheat products, all corn products like cereals and corn chips, all of those, biscuits, even if it's an oatmeal cookie, just because it has an oatmeal in it, it's already healthy. No, oatmeals are still high in total carbohydrates from starch, aside from fiber, and it can still spike your blood sugar and spike your insulin. For the drinks, you can start enjoying drinks without sugar, not processed. The most processed I think that you can have are coffee, but if you can have plain brewed coffee, that would be great. If you want cold, you can put a lot of ice in it so that you can also enjoy it. And you can also have tea. So when it comes to tea, I usually like a cold tea. Good thing there's now a cold brew tea that's ready in 5 minutes, even if you are using cold water. But for the additional one, you can have a hot brew tea and then let it cool down and then put an ice on it. And you can also have the turmeric lemon or lime turmeric, whatever you have in your home, or ginger lemon. Those are also good. And if you don't let yourself get used to sweet, it can be very, very refreshing. So choose foods that will lessen insulin impact by lowering your carbohydrate intake, increasing your protein intake, and controlling your fats. Why? Lessening carbohydrate intake will lessen insulin. But why do we prioritize proteins? Because prioritizing proteins will make you lose fat weight and make you gain muscle weight. And muscle weight is better than just any other weight. And of course, when it comes to fats, we can control it depending on your health needs because fats is something that we also don't want to overdo and also we don't want to lessen because fats are essential in our body. Lastly, don't live in fear just because we are in this pandemic. You can always do some positive habits. And I think for those of you who are watching live right now, this is part of your positive habits to keep on increasing your knowledge when it comes to health improvements and not just positivity but also faith. Always pray because once you believe that you are healing, that you are improving, your immune system and it's getting stronger and it will make your healing faster. So, in summary, you can do some exercise, keep moving, you can do sun exposure even if you're at home. You can continue to do your intermittent fasting by not eating too much. And of course, when you decide to eat, you eat nutrient dense, low carb. And lastly, always have a positive spirit and always have faith. So I think today I'm doing exercise right now. I'm in my stationary bike and also I have my indirect sun exposure because I'm doing it by the window. I'm still fasting. I haven't eaten yet. And of course, I am just going to eat nutrient dense low carb later on. And as always, always keep a positive spirit, just a healthy dose of one and always believe that everything will be all right. So that's our 5 health tips for those who are just at home, no school or no work. Thank you very much, everyone. If you wish to know more, you're more than welcome to join our groups in Facebook, Life Without Rice and Low Carb Feasting and Fasting Community. For our food list, you can check our safe list, hashtag JGC Rojo Food List. I also made a YouTube video about that on how you can maximize it. So, for those who need guidance, you are more than welcome to join our LCF Masterclass by yours truly. Just message our admins in that page. So, thank you so much, everybody. Remember to always stay low carb. So